Dutch label Ventum has provided us with their new 5-strut high-performance kite, the Mute AS. The front tube here is supported by a 4-point bridle without pulleys. The steering lines are connected directly to the tip, and there are 3 different options to adjust bar pressure and turning speed. And at this point there is also a boom tag built into the tip so that you can find your kite again in case of loss or theft. This kite is inflated and deflated via a standard one-way outlet valve, and the hoses of the one-pump system are kept very straight and short. For the tube material, a high-strength Dacron is used here, which is reinforced with strong, durable triple polyester threads. The front tube is sealed with a quai de seam, which is doubled and stitched from the inside. For the canopy, Ventum specifically uses a triple ripstop material here. This canopy fabric extends far into the slightly rounded tips, and the trailing edge is extensively and thoroughly triple reinforced, so that as little as possible can flutter or wear out at the trailing edge. Additional protective plastic patches have been incorporated here. Line deflectors are only present at the end of the front tube. The other cross struts all manage without line deflectors. The cross tubes are each attached to the canopy with a single seam and are reinforced and glued from the inside. Impact and abrasion points are reinforced with rubberized fabric. The central area at the leading edge is additionally reinforced over a large area, and the transition from the front tube to the canopy is further reinforced here with 2 additional layers. The consistently good planing characteristics are essentially based on a high level of base pull. In this respect, the Ventum Mute definitely ranks among the particularly powerful 5-strutters on the market. Since its own flight speed is not particularly high, you can further enhance the planing potential here with a slight sine movement. The positioning of the Ventum Mute in the wind window is overall somewhat deeper in comparison. As a result, the kite goes upwind well, and since it holds its position very, very nicely, no corrections at all regarding the position of the kite in the wind window are necessary. Overall, going upwind with the Ventum Mute is easy. In terms of bar feeling, it should be noted that the steering and the power of the kite, as you can clearly observe, are not in any way in perfect harmony. There is always a slight, noticeable delay. It also gives the impression that, due to the not entirely stiff canopy, the impulse is not transmitted with complete precision. Since the holding and steering forces are just slightly above the average range, the occasional delay can be compensated without larger problems. When it comes to power delivery, things get pretty intense here. However, this is not an explosive power delivery due to a rather low flight speed. Instead, the whole thing is once again based on strong baseline pull. It pulls very powerfully and very evenly throughout, but without any noticeable power peak. As for its willingness to turn, it operates in medium radii, always with smooth rotation, but especially for kite loops, you need a certain amount of height because, due to the rather low flight speed, it needs a bit of assistance so that the kite can rise again and catch you safely as expected. The profile is cleanly aerodynamically flowed over from light to upper wind range. Accordingly, this essentially and fundamentally results in good profile stability. Only in the absolute upper wind range do you feel at the bar that the kite gains significantly in movement. As mentioned, this is noticeable at the bar. The The D-power capability of the Ventum mute is consistently excellent. By pushing the bar away, a very large wind range can be easily controlled here. The canopy depowers extremely efficiently when the bar is pushed away and noticeably reduces the pressure. The safety system from Ventum is very similar to Elevate or that of Freeride and is triggered at 6 kilograms of pulling force and a load of 120 kilograms. Reassembly is very quick and straightforward since a click-in system is installed here. Prior familiarization with it is practically unnecessary, since the Kite has a fairly round C-arc with a slight sweep. Relaunching is also very quick even with a 5 strutter. By pulling and holding a steering line, the Ventum mute reliably takes off. The Ventum mute delivers good to very good performance when jumping. Here too, as you might notice, the final outcome comes from a very strong high base pull. It lacks just a bit of flight speed and that acceleration that would be necessary to really generate a bit more explosiveness. Otherwise, jumping performance is good. On the other hand, you don't need any particularly sophisticated technique here to jump surprisingly well with the Ventum mute because it has a very pleasant sheet and go behavior, meaning simply by pulling the bar, the base pull is released immediately. The pull develops upwards for a long time, and in this case, it also delivers overall very good values for passive hang time. It's also positive that this applies to the entire wind range. No matter whether you want to push the jumping performance while foiling in lighter winds, want to push the limits, or in stronger winds. The behavior remains almost constant throughout. The performance potential is fully released across the entire wind range. With very high jumps and after landing loops, a bit of attention is required. You should actively follow the kite. In other words, you really have to make sure to initiate the landing loop in time, otherwise it stays a bit too long and too far behind you. Then you get the feeling that you briefly don't feel any pull because the kite simply stops and doesn't immediately fly forward again. However, once you get used to the timing, the landing is overall very clean and smooth. The Ventum Mute AS is a Freeride and Bigair kite that basically doesn't require any special skills to unlock its performance, because you don't need to bring any particular expertise to be able to access its capabilities, since it delivers everything through an intense, powerful and consistently strong, unwaveringly strong base pull. When it comes to physicality, which of course is also related to body weight, you should always definitely keep in mind we are dealing here with somewhat stronger bar forces. The holding and steering forces are both slightly above average, so you do need to grip a bit more firmly. Overall though, this is unproblematic and by no means truly strenuous. Even a strong woman will have no trouble with it at all. Nevertheless, this should be clearly pointed out. This is not an absolutely light, playful, high performer, not at all like, for example, the Harlem Thrive in the extreme case. With the Ventum Mute, the whole thing can be approached a bit more relaxed, thanks to the very good D power and consistently high steering control. Especially when it comes to lateral forces before takeoff, you really don't need to worry about it at all. And as already mentioned, it doesn't require particularly active steering of the kite in the air to achieve high lift or long. To achieve hang time, it largely takes care of that on its own, almost automatically. If you compare the kite with well-known competitors, the Ventum Mute also performs well. Nevertheless, one could make some minor fine adjustments, for example, to the bar feeling, meaning the steering response, and the resulting physical force to achieve a truly 100% homogeneity. However, we're talking about differences in the per miller range, and with a little familiarity, most people won't notice at all. A very important point to note in this case, however, is also the price, because here 12 square meters come with a retail price of just under €1,000. And that is, considering the high quality materials used, a truly very attractive price. Of course, this also puts our perhaps somewhat nitpicky assessment regarding perfect tuning and the idea of homogeneity into perspective. Anyone looking for a good to very good Freeride and Bigair kite, and with only a limited budget available, the innovative Ventum Mute AS is definitely an absolutely top choice.